Okay. It always sounds so official when it does that. It kind of freaks me out. We'll give everybody a minute to get in here and get situated. I'm just kind of looking through some of these names and seeing if I recognize. We've had so many Sarahs lately, so many Sarahs in our coaching world, and that's fun. And I see Bobsey's on here, so that's good because Bobsey is going to. She's one of our team members, and I hope she gets lots of information from you all to clear her chaotic mindset because I have to ride in a car with her later. So that will be great. All right. So we'll just kind of go ahead and jump right on in. I want to give my wonderful guest here an opportunity to introduce yourselves. And as I'm seeing more names pop in the chat, I'm also noticing, and I do want to tell you, Lisa and Uriah, that these are not all people, not all of these people are in group practices. We have some other industries over here in the chat. So that's cool. So keep that in mind. But how about we start with you, Lisa? Tell us who you are and how you came to be here with us today.
Lisa Crilley Mallis. I own Impactive Strategies and I work with business owners, typically service-based business owners who have 10 or fewer employees. And we work on time management, productivity, delegating. And how did I come to be here? I said yes. Right? Gosh, Kasey, you and I met the day before the world shut down, before
Yeah.
COVID, at
Wow.
an event, and we were lucky enough to be sitting next to each other. And since then, anytime you or Emily say, "Can you, will you?" You don't ever even have to finish the sentence. My answer is always yes.
Yes. Same. Same.
Always. Always yes.
That's so funny. And the meeting or the place we were at was actually at one of Mike McAllowitz's events. And
Mhm.
Lisa walks in, and I'm still like a super introvert at that time and don't really talk to people I don't know kind of person. And I think you were in like this bright yellow blazer, just like so friendly. And I was like, of course, this is who I'm gonna sit by, and it always works out that way.
And I was so lucky because I am still a super introvert. And so the bright yellow is just so people don't know it. And
Uh-huh.
I was like, oh, thank God, Casey sat
Smart.
next to me.
Mm.
So I have someone to talk to.
Yeah, that's a great strategy. I love that. I love that. Okay, and Uriah, what about you, Mr. California?
Yes. Mr. Northern California. I am a therapist by training, but I'm retired as of about 3 years ago. I stopped seeing clients. But I still have a group practice here that serves teens and young adults. And about 6 years ago, I started Productive Therapist, kind of on accident. And it ended up being a VA company, like a virtual assistant company that serves therapists in private practice, and love what I do there. Also married and have two amazing teen daughters. And I like Mario.
See that?
I don't know why I
Awesome.
threw that in there. That was funny, but um, yeah, same as Lisa. When I got the email invite, I was like, "Yeah, count me in." I think I literally just typed 4 words, "Count me in." That's 3 words. So I'm always down to do something fun with Kasey. So yeah, definitely.
Yay. Well, and the idea for this webinar is kind of came about one because of launching In Search of You. And the subtitle of the book is How to Find Joy When Doing More Isn't Doing It Anymore. And for years, me personally, I mean, I was living a life with a very chaotic mindset and honestly didn't even realize it. It just became such a normal thing for me. And realizing that so many other people do that too, and that I think, and I would like to hear your thoughts on this, but I almost think chaos can become an addiction for us, especially for high functioning, even over functioning individuals. I think chaos is like that, just that rush that gets us going. What do you all think about that? Am I crazy for thinking that?
No, I agree with you 100%. Like chaos comes from becoming addicted to achievement and accomplishing things for whatever the underlying reason is. And a lot of us, probably the folks who are listening to this, are extremely ambitious, creative, like individuals who want to make an impact in the world. And you can accidentally slip into a place where you're overworked, overwhelmed, burned out, and you wonder how in the world you got to the place you're in. It's not hard to do that, for sure.
Right. Yeah. And you're right. I'm just gonna put you on the spot because you said something and now I just have to know. Have you read my book yet?
You're gonna ask me that right here in front of all these people?
Yes.
I have not, but
Oh,
I need to. Yes.
well, I'm asking because that was like almost verbatim.
Oh, nice.
What I said is
Yeah.
I woke up one day and thought, how the heck did I wind up here?
Hmm.
Like, how in the heck did this happen? Because I did not realize that my over functioning and that chaotic brain was it had become sort of like an addiction, and I had always my family had I have a family full of addiction. Um but not like this. And I knew for me, there's like a lot of things that I would never do because I just thought, gosh, I'd never want to slip into that. But I slipped into it in a totally different way. Yeah. Um, okay. So one of the things I want to ask, Lisa, I'll start with you. And there's a question over here that there it is. Um, So chaos is something that we all struggle with, whether it's in the workplace or just at home, balancing our lifestyle and all the other things that we try to do. What are a few hacks, if you want to call it that, that have worked for you personally to be able to balance or maybe reduce some of that chaos in your own life?
So like when I think of hacks, I always think of like that short term solution. Like I don't think of it as a long term, but something that'll help you out until you can get to that longer term solution, whatever that may be. And so when I think of hacks, I think of, and these are the things that I use and then I'll work with clients on, but one of them is like just a brain dump. Like
Mhm.
I will get to that place, and we were talking before we came on air, and Uriah, before you jumped in, I'm working through these ideas for a group, um, for a launch for a program, and I'm like, I've got all these thoughts, and they're half formed. And when I get to that place, I'm like, oh, my brain is full. I need to just dump it all out so that I have some space. And so a brain dump is one of those short term hacks when I'm feeling the chaos. Another one is a parking lot for throughout the day. Because I'll try to start to keep it in my head, and, like, my brain is not for remembering. My brain is for thinking. Paper and pencil or whatever is for remembering. That is not for what my brain is for. And once I start filling my brain with that other stuff is not no longer gonna be thinking. And then my other hack for overwhelm, again, a short-term solution is a Post-it note for next steps. So if I'm in the middle of something and I'm interrupted, whether I'm interrupted by a thought in my own head or I'm interrupted by someone come in my office or whatever that is, I just jot down what was I going to do next so that it's easier for me to continue. Otherwise, I go back in that overwhelmed spinning phase over and over again. So those are some of those short term, those are my three big short term hacks.
Nice. What about you, Uriah? Do you have any?
I just have to say I love the parking lot idea, Lisa. That's such a smart one because, like, I don't know if people can relate to this, but I have great ideas every single day. And each idea could be a new book, it could be a new program, it could be a new training, it could be, but it shouldn't be on my list today or even this quarter or maybe even this year. So I think the parking lot idea is brilliant. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I use a filter that that I've used for years and try to share with the folks that I work with, and I call it the dad method. I'm laughing because I'm a dad and I like dad jokes, but um, I truly think that the best way to be more productive is to have less to do, which sounds like counterintuitive, but I think Lisa's tagline is like achieve more by working less. It's like, yes, that's the goal. So I try to put things through a filter of the dad method, which is like the best way to get things off of your plate is to either delete them, automate them, or delegate them. And I know we'll get into some of those things a little bit more in this conversation, but I think a lot of us do overcommit and put more on our plate than we need to tackle because nobody's telling us that, but we think we should do X, Y, Z, and then all the other letters. So really taking some time to evaluate the commitments that you have and the priorities that you think are important. And then whenever possible, eliminate some of those, just delete them. Come to the realization that you are trying to do too much. And to decrease the chaos, you probably just need to get rid of like 80% of what you think you should be doing. So that's
Yeah,
kind of the filter that I'd like to put things through. And at the end of the day, I want to be only focusing on the things that are truly exciting and interesting to me, and then move things forward in my life and business.
I like that. I'm gonna be honest. Like when my brain is in a healthy state of mind, I feel like I do all of those things that you all just talked about. The unhealthy side of me, I still haven't really decided if this is a bad thing or
Mm.
not. Uh, but I kind of I slip into this do it now mentality where if there's a lot of things going on and there's a lot of things that have to be done, I've had employees in the past that like I would say, okay, I would delegate to them, I need you to get this, and this done. And then they basically had a to-do list that anytime you gave them something to do, they would add it to the bottom, and they always worked from the top to the bottom. And it would infuriate me
Mm.
because, like priorities, like you were saying, like just evaluating what those priorities are and acting in that order is so important. Um, but like when I get into that do it now, I'm just like, okay, this isn't even going on a list. I'm just gonna do it, knock it out, get it on, I mean, just get it done and move on. And that tends to free up my mind for the actual things that I have to think about,
I like that.
you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Hmm.
I don't know if it's healthy or not because it tends to panic of like, all right, I need this. Or maybe it's just poor delegation. Maybe I'm just delegating and not following through quickly or not following up and holding accountability. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, I was saying that because I did that yesterday and then I was like,
It doesn't sound unhealthy to me. Not that you
yeah,
asked, but I
okay.
think I think,
I
quick tasks that you can knock out in 5 minutes or less, don't put them on the list. Just probably do them.
Right,
Yeah.
just move on. Uh-huh. Yeah, I like that too. What about like when you're talking about this chaos and being productive, what is self-care? What role does self-care play into that? Because I mean there has to be at some point that being productive is unhealthy, maybe.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, what do you think?
I used to, I think once upon a time, one of our taglines was like saving therapists from burnout. I think that was like one of the things we would say sometimes because I mean, truly, whatever, not everybody listening to this is a therapist, but if you are helping people in some sort of role, if you sacrifice your own health and well being, at some point, you're no longer useful to others. And so you have to protect and prioritize taking care of yourself. I'll admit I'm not the best at proper self-care because I tend to overwork, like confessions here. I love what I do so much that I'm like, yeah, I need to take a break, and a vacation, but sometimes I don't. But for sure, like if I don't sleep well, eat well, talk to my therapist, do some of those things, exercise, I'm just not the best version of myself. And when I'm not my best self, then I can't make my highest contribution. Like I can't show up and be the best Uriah that the people in my life and business need. So it's a work in progress, to be honest, but I'm trying to do more of that. I started playing pickleball recently, and that seems really like a good thing. It's fun and it gets me out there and get some exercise. And I can't be on my computer and play pickleball, so that's good. Yeah,
Not yet anyway. I mean, I'm sure you'll figure out a way to do it.
AI
What
will
about
help with that. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
what
and I would agree with both of that. And like you had said, Casey, like when your brain is at its best, you work this way, and when it's not, you work this way. And though intellectually, I totally understand the importance of self-care. And I have my self-care routines. And like Uriah said, I'm a work in progress, which I think we all are. And there are days that, we're better than others. And I think, or at least I know that what I teach is it's the up and down curve. And what we're hoping is that the downs don't go down as long and we catch them and we can pull them back up. And overall, there's that upward trajectory. And I will get to a place sometimes where I know I've gone too far and I will call a pajama day and I will own it. I will say it is happening. Sometimes I hope it happens on like a Saturday, but there are days where I'm like, I will be of no use. You could sit me in my office, but I will produce nothing of any value. So we're just punishing everyone around me. So let's just not. And it will literally be just a day where I can do whatever I want, but there are days where it'll just all be pajamas. And,
Yeah.
and I used to feel like that was a weakness. I used to feel like I was, you know, all the bad, horrible things I would tell myself. And now I'm like, dude, I'm taking a pajama day. And I'll come out of it on the other end way better and with a more renewed sense of, let's not get to this place where it's a have to. Let's get to this place where it's a, yay, I want to do this and I can. Versus, oh, if I don't do this, we're in big trouble.
Mm.
Are,
Yeah, you
are you
kind
saying that you want less emergency pajama days?
Thank you. Yes, that's exactly. Thank you for condensing that for me. That's exactly
Nice.
what I'm trying to say. No more
I like it.
snow day, pajama days. Let's just make them, for fun.
more planned pajama days.
I like it.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you kind of just opened the door here for my next question because I know that so many people are faced with guilt revolving around self-care, and especially people who are business owners or are in higher levels of responsibility within a company. Even me, I mean, still, like, I have this internal conversation constantly, but there's a lot of guilt associated with it. And I remember there were times where I would just push and push and push and push and push. And now I kind of just embrace what I call my own business bipolarness. Um, I've kind of noticed patterns, and I think maybe people that notice things in themselves could also look for their own patterns. But for me, like you said, there's like these highs and lows, and what I tend to say and tell people is that I ride those waves, and whenever I'm just exhausted, I don't really try to prevent exhaustion anymore because that never worked for me. Like maintaining this constant like level state was not my thing. I like to go hard and like all in, and then I like to take, a couple weeks to myself. But riding those waves and embracing those highs and those lows and not seeing it as a weakness was huge. But what do people do when they feel that guilt for not working?
Do you mean like guilt from taking days off or vacations or saying no to certain
Right.
requests? Yeah, that
Uh-huh.
makes sense.
Yeah.
That's a really good question. I mean, I think I find that I get caught up in a lot of my own expectations that no one else is putting on me, and I get myself in trouble because I think that I should say yes to all the things. Um, and so it's one of the things that I actually really enjoyed about the book writing process is that like it's a really great excuse to say no to everybody. Yeah,
Right.
right. The productive practice. The subtitle is Grow Your Therapy Practice, Get More Done and Have More Fun.
Oh
So
yeah.
for me, the thing that I'm trying to do this year is put everything through the filter of fun. Like I'm trying to prioritize doing things and spending my time in ways that are enjoyable. And it's really hard to like, if you think about it, it's really hard to be a child and play with Legos and feel guilty. It's like, no, you're just like, you're looking for the most fun thing you can do with your time, right? I don't know if that's a
Yeah.
good analogy, but I literally look at my calendar, my to-do list lately, and the projects I'm working on. I say, am I enjoying this? Is this fun? Like, is this still something I want to do? So that for me, that's helping me to not, because when I commit to doing things that I don't really want to do, then I feel guilty because I don't, all the reasons. So
Mhm.
it kind of seems to decrease a little bit of that and just make life more interesting too.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm thinking back to your dad method. And, one of the books I just recently read was 4,000 Weeks Time Management for Mortals. And it's built on that premise that there's always going to be more to do than there is time. And that an average life has 4,000 weeks in it. If you like, if I were to say to you, how many weeks do you think you have? You probably, without figuring it out, I would never have guessed 4,000. But like, and so right there, it starts just knowing that there's always going to be more work than time. The to-do list is always going to be longer than the day. The inbox is never going to stay empty for longer than 5 seconds. Like just starting, right? I know now I have
Yeah.
depressed all of you. Those of you who are listening on the replay, you're turning us off right now. Please stay connected. Don't hit leave. But like just looking at it from that perspective, I think starts to pull some of the guilt away, because it's impossible to say yes to everything.
Yeah.
And again, then when I'm working with clients, I was like, just as we started this premise, this is not your get out of jail free card. Just so we're clear, like, let's not go to the whole other extreme now. This is your clue to go back to something similar to the dad method and say, what are your priorities? What are the things that, what's your zone of genius? What are the things that you want to make sure you accomplish in your 4,000 weeks? How do we make sure that happens, whether through delegating or whatever that looks like? But you might as well let the guilt go away now, because you are not going to get it all done. It's not possible.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. I love that. I love that. I do want to mention, since we're just a little over halfway into the webinar, if you are here with us live, and you have a question, you can put that in the chat. We will, I have that pulled up. I'm going to be asking those. I have a few questions pulled up also that I want to ask specifically to Uriah and Lisa, but I will give you just a second if you have something on your mind and you want to ask. I was also thinking, Uriah, as I shamelessly plugged your book, uh, and I see a lot of names that I don't know. I think I'm going to shamelessly plug mine, because I have an idea, if you're cool with it. And Lisa, I'm surprised you haven't written a book. Do you plan to write a book?
I'll put it on the list.
Okay, yeah. But so my idea, since I don't know a lot of you and we're still trying to get that Amazon bestseller, if you go to Amazon and you order mine, thanks, Lauren. Oh, look at you. And you order mine right now during this webinar, I will buy Uriah's for you and send it to you. How about that? Would that work, Uriah?
That sounds great.
You like
I
that?
like it.
Okay.
I like it. Yeah.
So if you go to Amazon and you order, please send Bopsy. She's on this call right now. Bopsy, if you'll stick your email, just send her your receipt and the method in which we'll just go on Amazon and order Uriah's and ship it straight to you. So just make sure we have your mailing address that we can ship that book. That would be amazing. And I was telling my staff earlier, you spend time writing a book or even like developing a program and you love it, and there's just so much that goes into it, so much self-doubt, so much, all of it. And then you get it done and then you're like, oh shit, now I have to sell it. You kind of forget when you're writing it. You're like, okay, now what am I going to do with all these books? I got to get rid of them. Okay. So I want to play a little game, and I'm going to actually hide while you do this, because I don't want to influence your questions, but I'm going to mute myself. And then Lisa, I would like for you to ask Uriah your most challenging productivity related question and get his response. And then Uriah, I want you to return the favor and ask Lisa. Can you do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Let's play.
All right, Lisa, let's
Okay.
stump the productivity genius. Here we go. Ready?
All right. So those of you who are watching right now, we were not prepped on this. And those of you who are on here who know me know right now what's going in my head. Okay. So, Uriah, what do you do when you have Ooh, what do you do when you have conflicting priorities? Like two things that you know are absolutely like the number one thing that you have to get done that day. Like you run them through your
Yeah.
dad method and you know they both are absolutely the top thing you have to get done.
Well, that's a great question, and that's a common thing that everybody goes through because we all have tons of things pulling at our attention, right? Requests from family and teammates, and all the things. I mean, the interesting thing is that like the word priority was always
Right.
intended to be one. Yeah. So just like I would take a step back and go like, okay, only one, if only one of these things can get done today, how do I put one above the other, right?
Mhm.
And I to be honest, this is one of my hacks. I do this on a regular basis with my task management app because you can color code things based on priority. So I only make 1 to 3 things a priority every single day, and it's like if I can only get those things done, that's a good day. That's a productive day. But if I have to choose between the two, I mean, I would think which one of these is going to make me money, to be honest, like right, and or which one of these is going to like satisfy a commitment to a person that I care about. Those are the things I think I would think about, whether that was a family member or my team or something like that. And then at the end of the day, just realizing that, like you said just a few minutes ago, there's no possible way to get all the things done on any given day. It's just not going to happen. Yeah.
I love that. All
Yeah.
right. All right. Your turn.
Okay. Let's see here. What I'm trying to think of like how vulnerable of a question do we want to ask or answer?
Right.
Can you think of a delegation mistake that you made, whether it was small or large in your
Just one.
business? Think of
This,
one that would
like, this
be
is only, we only have a half
informative,
hour left.
instructive. Yeah.
Oh, like a bazillion. So, yes, of course. So I'll think of one I recently made, uh, or the one I make probably the most often is assuming that it's always assuming the person can read my mind. Like I am, I the mistake I will make most often is not giving enough information. I will give a process or give what I think is a very clear outcome. Like I'm very big on, I'll tell you what I want the end to look like. You figure out the middle because you are a um, naturally creative, resourceful, and whole person, and you can figure. I have hired great people, and they can figure out how to get things done. Only my end isn't as clear for them as it is for me. And so that is always my number one delegating mistake.
I can totally relate to that. I have a question for Kasey. Can I ask you a question?
Of course. Of course.
Okay. So I'm curious, like on a day-to-day basis, like what does your life actually look like? Because like just from the outside looking in, sometimes I'm like, how in the world does she do all of the things? It's like starting a pottery studio, like building a new house, writing a book, putting on a
Oh,
summit, all these things. I'm like, how do you do that? Like
oh,
actually.
yeah. That's kind of funny because this morning, this morning, my CFO, Jackie, found me and I was over at the pottery studio. Um, and she's like, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do this. How and she's the CFO over basically she's in charge of the financials over all my businesses. So she knows like what's going in, what's coming out, like all the stuff. And I just said, Jackie, some days I just don't really know, to be honest with you. I just don't really know. I'm really good at signing up for like 20% more than what I should, like I just will overcommit. So, how do I do it? I mean, literally, logistically, it has to be within the delegation aspect of it. Fortunately, my group practice, which is my largest business, has the capacity for more people, more employees. And so with that, I have more people to delegate things to. And so, I kind of have like my go-to people for certain things. I have um my like office, I don't know what she changes her name all the time. I don't know if she's like my office coordinator or I don't know what she calls herself, but she makes sure that the buildings are fine, that we have, all of our inspections, that we have supplies, that we have, so like logistical stuff, I just have a person for that. And I just try to find people that I can get for certain things and I just delegate it out. Um,
I figured a
because
big part of it was team. That makes sense. Hmm.
yeah, it has to be. I don't know how you could do it all without the team. Um, and I'm kind of one of these people where I don't know if either one of you can resonate with this, but like something has to be, I'm very visual, so I have to have an idea and it has to become very clear visually of what this is going to look like, how this is going to like how it's all going to work. So I'm kind of slow to start, but then when I can see it, I'm able to act on it. And when I do act on it, it's pretty quick. For instance, just last week, we decided that we were in the pottery studio that we've started in January. We're going to add a bar so we can sell alcohol. So we had to get a liquor license, all the inspections, build the bar, find a distributor, order the alcohol, price the alcohol, learn about the alcohol, and all of that. We've done that in a week and a half. So by tomorrow we will be selling alcohol in our pottery studio.
That's
But
fast. Wow.
yeah, like once it's here, do it now. Let's just get it done, move on, kind of
Yeah, I
deal.
was gonna say it seems like you're definitely geared towards action. Like some people overthink things, over plan before they actually take the first step, and it seems like you do like ready, fire, aim kind of thing.
I do. And yeah, I'm not a super big planner. I'm not going to research and research and I'm just going to do it. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to change it. And and I know that there's a lot of people that do it the other way. They spend a lot of time on the front end doing it
Hmm.
right. Or it's whatever. For the most part, when it comes to business, that's not how I do it. I do it now. I do like in my personal life, like building a house and things like that. Like
Hmm.
I'm going to research, I'm going to do it all right. But in business, I think that slow to start mentality is where we lose a lot of good potential entrepreneurs.
Makes sense.
Yeah. There's a question over here in the chat. I'm going to start with Doug real quick. He says, "Hi, I do have a question for when you get to it. I have ADHD and I signed up for too many things." Well, I feel you. I feel you. I probably get 150 to 200 emails a day in my primary work email. Now, Google does a decent job of helping me sort what's important, but there are still so many things I see I don't need to do and things I don't see that I need to do. And it's adding so much time and stress to my days. What would each of you recommend I do?
I would recommend you hire a virtual assistant to slim your inbox. But you're right. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll tag on that for sure. Yeah. And I know Doug. Hey, Doug, it's good to see you here. Um, yeah, email is a big challenge I think for all of us. In fact, this morning I was just doing my usual like unsubscribe, kind of yeah. Doug knows a VA would be a recommendation, of course. Yeah, I mean, delegating, if your email inbox truly is that full, you have a couple options. You can always commit email bankruptcy, which sounds so dramatic, but you can like literally like archive all and important things will come back. You can spend some dedicated time, or you can have an assistant spend some dedicated time cleaning up your inbox. We do that. Some of our virtual assistants do that for our members. And like unsubscribing from as much as you can, creating some filters. There's different things you can do. And I think, Doug, you probably already have access to this, but I have a course called Email Transformation. And actually, it's a bonus if you buy my book. at productivetherapist.com/book, unshameless plug. And there's a lot of tips, like practical tips of how to use your email software to manage your inbox. So I think those are the things that I would recommend. Like I have an assistant. I'm not like the best at this, to be honest, because I'm so efficient with email. I do most of it myself, but I do have an assistant that's on the East Coast that filters my inbox and does some tagging and labeling before I see it. So that is helpful, for sure. I have a lot to say about that. So, people can check out my book and my course.
What about you, Lisa? Do you have, other than hiring a virtual assistant, do you have anything that works for you?
Like that's like typically that's the first thing that I'll say is the fewer emails you have, the easier it is to manage. And so unsubscribe, whether you are unsubscribing or you have someone else unsubscribing for you, that's your like that's my number one tip right there. And I had read recently, if you don't have an assistant, you are your own assistant, which really resonated with me because I also do a lot of my own email. Like we've done a really good job of having like a support at and a hi at.
Mhm.
And so typically the emails that come to me are for me. I get very little email that isn't for me. Yet I read that and I thought, note to self, of the people on my team, like what roles are they playing, or am I acting as my own assistant, and made me, sit and ponder. So I think that like going and looking at the rest of the question, it reads as if it is mostly email, but that's the first thing, like unsubscribe, or like I love what you call it, email bankruptcy. Like I'm like, put it all, archive it. If someone needs you, they'll come back.
Yeah.
Right.
I also like to say, like, the email inbox is full of everyone else's priorities for your
Mhm.
day.
Yep.
So, and I'm so guilty of this, so I'm not going to say that I'm like perfect, but if you are getting to your desk or wherever you start working and you are first looking at your email, your priorities are going to be all thrown off because something's going to come through that feels like it's urgent to somebody else.
Mhm.
So, as much as possible, don't look at your email, even if it feels full and important. Batch, like look at that like an hour after or 2 hours after you start doing work. Focus on the important things first.
Yeah.
That always helps me. I just literally shut it down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that I'm so glad you said that because I hadn't thought about this, but it reminded me batching emails. So I do that. I have certain times that I check the emails, and other times I just don't at all. But I was actually at a alumni career panel earlier this week for the high school that I graduated from. Asked me to come be a part of a panel, and on the panel there was like a nursing like operating room nurse director, there was a detective, a banker, two other nurses, and me. So you can imagine, okay, like the questions and the answers that are potentially going to come through. They're all employees, they all work for, people. um and that was a question, is how important is checking your email? And I could just tell by the moderator, who is a teacher, I could just tell by her tone and the way she was asking the question and emphasizing certain words that she wanted to portray the message to the students that checking email is critical.
Mm.
Because maybe they're not checking their email. I don't know. And so they all answer, and I wasn't even going to say anything. And they just point blank ask me. And I said, look, is it okay if I challenge you right now in front of the whole junior class? And the lady's like, sure. And so I just said, I don't think it's that important. Um, as to how often you're checking it, obviously you have to check it based on the regulations of your job or whatever you're doing. But as far as like every time you get a ding to go look at it, that's a major distraction. And it's keeping you out of the present moment. And that is what we don't want. It's actually less productive to do that. And they all looked at me like I was psycho. Um, but I think that that's accurate, is that email is dictating your schedule of your workday. And I love it. I love that question. I love those answers. Those are great. I do want to take just 1 second for the people who are still on here and for the people who are watching the recording. Um, if you really need more help in this area, I just want you to know a little bit about what's out there. Because sometimes this feels like, well, I don't really have the extra money. I don't really, we can make a lot of excuses for things. But honestly, when it comes to your time, there is nothing more valuable than the time and your presence in the life of your family and loved ones. So, Lisa, kind of tell us what you're offering or what you know to be out there, and same with Uriah, and then we'll ask a couple questions and wrap it up.
Absolutely. So in May, and I'll drop the link in the chat in a moment, um, I'll have a week-long, 30-minute a day, week-long workshop for business owners who have teams about figuring out like what's your zone of genius, what's the zone of genius of your team, so that everyone's working on the work that they do best. So as we're talking about chaos and being productive and doing things that you enjoy and having fun and like all of those, so often we have job descriptions and people do work and then someone leaves and their job gets absorbed by 2 or 3 people, and then someone else is hired, but what they're hired for doesn't really take into account the person who left and who picked up their work, and like all of a sudden there's like this smushed work. And this is a chance to reset all of that and figure out, one, what work are you doing that no longer aligns with what your business looks like right now, but people are doing it because they've always done it, and who really is being underutilized, and are we like smushing down their gifts and talents and the stuff they really love to do because we don't even know. Like some people have like this great skill and they think it's a hobby, yet they could bring it to the workplace and we aren't aware of it. So anyway, that's a long way of saying it's there. The wait list is open. And so I'll put the link in the chat, but it's Impactus for those of you who are listening to this and aren't looking at the chat. It's impactusstrategies.com/what for what is your zone of genius. And I'll pop it in here. But that it'll be a free workshop coming up in May.
Awesome. I know we need to register for that. If my team members aren't on here, we need to do that for sure. So hope you got that link. Uriah, what about you?
I was gonna say, Lisa, I love that you're doing that, and I'm guessing that's somewhat inspired by the Big Leap book, right?
A little bit, yes.
I read that book every year. So good. Yeah. So let's see. I think, yeah, the best way to get into the productive therapist universe is through the Productive Practice book. And if you don't know us, if you're not familiar with what we do, we focus on staffing and training for the intake coordinator role. So if you're still handling your phones and handling all the incoming client inquiries that come into your practice, you probably might want to think about handing that off to somebody else, because most likely you have too much chaos in your life. And most recently, we created a new program that we haven't even really broadcast yet, but we are actually helping with doing consulting and full recruiting for the intake coordinator role. So if you don't want to hire a virtual assistant for whatever reason, maybe you want somebody in your office or you just want a dedicated employee, we've applied our amazing skill and expertise in hiring great people to offering this recruiting service. So it's really fun. And if you need help with hiring and training that person, we can do both those things.
Awesome. I love that. And so I want to wrap up our webinar by answering Miss Mary's question of help me prioritize family and self-care over work tasks. Family and self is always last. Totally get that. I'll let you two jump in if there's something you want to say, and I'll finish it out. Kind of have an idea.
Uriah, you go first. I know Mary, so you go first.
How to prioritize family. Yeah. It's like, I can definitely relate to this question because I feel like I've focused on my career and my business so much over the years of raising my kids and I was doing it for them, right? I was working hard to provide for them, but then sometimes I realized that I was sacrificing quality time with them and, putting off vacations and those kinds of things. And it helps to realize that time is a non-renewable resource, and especially when your kids are any certain age, like they're never going to be that age again, right? So you don't want to miss out on that time. And it's commonly stated that people don't get to the end of their life and wish they had worked more or made more money, for that matter. So it's like, just try to recalibrate, what is actually important. And lately for me, I have two teenage daughters who are in high school. And so basically, and they're at the stage of life where like I have to go find them to hang out with them and like convince them that, I'm going to buy them Starbucks so they should come, hang out with me or whatever, sushi. So if they come ask me for anything, I'm going to say yes as much as I can, and prioritize like dropping whatever I was working on and going and doing the thing with them. It was much harder, honestly, when they were younger and they wanted to play when I was like working in the kitchen, on my website or whatever. But yeah, just doing those things and saying yes to your family and your friends,
You
a
stole
lot more.
you stole it. I mean, that was what I was gonna
I'm
say.
so sorry.
People can tell you the kind of reaction I get from people when this conversation kind of comes up naturally out in the community.
Yeah.
And I say, I always I try to not tell my children no. Now, I'm not talking about like going into the Walmart, "Mom, can I toy?" Like I can very easily say no. That's not what I'm talking about. But if they're asking, "Hey, can we go here? Hey, can we paint seashells? Hey, can we, do chalkboard, whatever on the sidewalk?" Like anything that is like an experience, I try everything I can not to tell them no. And same with like what you were saying with opportunities that come up with your family and your friends. I think it's very easy to say, "I'm busy, I have to work," that I think that just kind of becomes a habit. And it's so unfortunate that once we started, it's kind of hard to stop it. So I think just try to recognize and catch yourself if you find yourself saying, "Well, I'm really doing this for my family." But because I kind of have mixed feelings about that. I mean, honestly, I think we all do things for our family, but um I think what our family needs versus what we are trying to actually give them, there's a big gap there. They need way less than what we're trying to work for. They don't need millions and millions of dollars. They need your time and attention. And they also need you to be present and love yourself and um have joy in your life and be fulfilled. They need that more than they need anything that your business is ever going to give you. So, what about you,
And I
Lisa?
think, Mary, on a tactical level, because both Uriah and Kasey just hit you on that emotional level that I know right now has you wiping tears away, as I am. I think on that tactical level, what do you need? An hour a day? What do you need? 90 minutes a day? 3 hours a week? Like, look at what is it that you need, and then back it into what tasks do you still need to offload? Because I know that you've been doing a lot of work on delegating. You guys have been doing a lot of work in the business on realigning things and, those types of things. So what still needs to get moved off your plate so that you're not fighting that battle of prioritizing because you have the space now because you've moved the work. So what still needs to move off? Look at it
Yeah,
that way too.
love it. Love it. Lisa, you have a comment down here in the chat if you want to read that while I tell everybody thank you. Thank you all so much for showing up live. I know we were just talking about how it's so hard to attend live webinars because we have a million things we've got going on, right? So we're so happy that you're here. Don't forget our incentive, buy in search of you. Also get the productive practice. We've got cool giveaway stuff too, so we'll just send you a whole box of goodies. And I just would love for you all to keep in touch. Let us know if you use any of these hacks, tag us. Tell us if you found something even better because we want to use it as well. And I want to thank Lisa and Uriah for taking an hour out of your day and making an impact on these folks that showed up. All right.
Thanks, Kasey.
Thank you, Kasey.
You.